Hi everyone, welcome to my channel and welcome back. I'm Jeannie, and raise your hand if you love pink and black as a combo. If you do, this October Sky collection from Sea and Designer Dips is for you, so keep watching this. So Sea and Designer Dips recently had a pretty large release, and the October Sky collection was one of those collections, and I knew this was the first one I wanted to use, but definitely expect to see a lot of Sea and Designer Dips manis for this month because I just couldn't help myself. But this collection, so beautiful. There's 5 colors in the collection. I'm going to use 3 of them for today's mani. I just love pink and black together because I feel like it's like the perfect combination of a little bit edgy, but still a little bit soft. I think they go really well together. And even though this isn't like a Halloween mani, I feel like it's kind of nudging in that direction because it's kind of like that Halloween-esque feel. So I hope it's not too early for that because I am definitely into it. So let's go ahead and jump straight into this mani. I'm starting with October Sky, which is a thermal and a glow. I will be using my Sea and Designer Dips dip liquids as well, but let's get back to October Sky. So this is such a unique dip, and I think this might be my favorite out of the collection. So you can see here, it's a gray powder, so it's gray when it's cold, but when it turns hot, which you'll see on my nail because I live in the South and it's still really hot outside, and it was hot in my room when I was doing this mani, but when it's hot, it turns into like a pinkish, purplish type color, which is really beautiful. But there's so many unique elements to this dip. So it's got smaller glitters in there. It's got silver holographic shards in there. There's also really tiny, cute star glitters and moon glitters. It's just got like a little bit of everything, which just makes it so unique. So this is going to go on my thumb and my pinky, but as I'm dipping my thumb, I want to make sure that everything is laying flat. And there's some pieces that were kind of like hanging off my nail, so I'm just going to remove them. And that shard piece that you see in that corner, it was kind of like not fully on my nail, so I'd rather just pull it off and worry about that on my second layer because I will do a second layer. So I'm just going to make sure I'm cleaning everything up, and if something is not really quite stuck on my nail completely, I'll just remove it and worry about that when I get to my second layer. I will say that shards are a little bit stiffer than working with foils, so you do risk them sticking up. So I always like to make sure that they're laying down as flat as possible while my dip base is still wet. I like to press them down just to make sure they're as flat as possible. So you kind of have to be a little more careful when you're working with shards because they do tend to stick up a little bit more. They create a little bit more texture. So I do like to do the chunky glitter hack to make sure that everything is as flat as possible. So I'll show you that a little bit later on once I finish with the mani, a cap and clear. I'll show you what that looks like if you haven't seen that before. I also have a video on that as well, I believe, and I'll leave that linked above in the cards if you want to check that out. But I went ahead and finished my first layer on my thumb and my pinky, so I'm dusting off the excess powder. So you can see that pink right there because my nails are hot at the moment. So I'm just going to dust off, make sure that if there's any like loose pieces, that's fine if it falls off. So I'm going to shake my container. This is my Chaos Gemerld just to bring more of those glitter pieces to the surface, because they are heavier and they do tend to sink. And I want to make sure that I'm picking up more of those pieces for my second layer. I mean, it's not like a super packed glitter, but I do want like a good coverage of like all those different elements just because it's so unique. So I'm applying a thin, even layer of dip base to my entire nail. If I missed any spots on my first layer, I want to make sure that I'm getting it all with my second layer. So I'm a little more careful, a little more slower in my second layer, especially because my first layer, you know, I'm putting it on top of peel base, which will make my dip base dry a little faster. So that's why I may miss some areas. And then once I've got that down, I'm going to go ahead and lay my finger flat into that powder just to pick up more of those pieces. So you can see here, you can see a lot more of that hollow glitter, a lot more of that silver in that second layer, which is exactly what I wanted. I'm always like such a kid when it comes to special effect powders like thermals, glows, UV changers, things like that. Like these thermals are just so fun to watch in the dipping process because you see that gray powder in my Chaos Gemerld, but once I dip into it, you see that pink on my nail. It doesn't come out gray at all. And I always just find it so fun and so fascinating. Am I the only one, or do you also think that's fun to watch? Speaking of watching, I'm trying something new. I changed things up and I changed to a solid white background because it's kind of like a cleaner look. So I'm curious how you feel about it. Do you prefer this? Like, I like that it's cleaner, but at the same time, like, I'm always big on like colorful things and fun things. And so it's less distracting to the Manny to have that white background, but I also think it's kind of plain. So let me know down below whether you think it's better to have like the plain white background or if I should go back to like my fun mats. After my second dip, I did want a little bit more of that silver glitter at the free edge area of my pinky. So I just did a little bit of glitter placement. So I just placed some dip base around the last half of my nail. And then I'm just taking my precision tool, I dip that into the wet dip base. And I'm just picking up little individual pieces and just placing them just because I wanted a little more of that pop. I finished with my 2 dips of October Sky, so now I'm going to move on to Ghosty, and it's such a fun, unique glitter. And this is actually the inspo for this Manny, just because I love the color theme of it. So it is a mixture of smaller and larger hex glitter, so it is a chunky glitter, but the colors, it's got peach and pink and black. So it's like that perfect combination, what I was talking about in my intro, of a little bit edgy, but very soft. So I feel like it's kind of summer into fall into Halloween-esque feel, and I absolutely love it. So I do end up doing 2 dips of this. So I do it on my index finger and ring finger. And honestly, I probably could have gotten away with 1 dip. Like you can see here for that one layer, there's just like a little bit of areas that were missing. So I could have probably just done like 1 dip and then a little bit of glitter placement. But I decided to go ahead and do 2 dips of this just because I wanted more of that glitter, just because I am obsessed with it. So I'm not really concerned about like if there are missing spots on the first layer because I will do that second layer. But you know, if any pieces are kind of hanging off my nail, I'll either push them fully onto my nail or I'll just remove them. I'm not really as concerned about my first layer because I knew that I would do a second layer with this. But I do want to make sure that I'm cleaning up my cuticle area, removing any excess product. And then if I can remove any of those glitters, I'm just going to go ahead and remove them before my dip base is fully dry. I went ahead and capped my nails in clear off camera, but I want to show you the chunky glitter hack. So as I get to the activator point, I have this little baggie. Sometimes I'm lazy and I don't use a baggie. So I'm going to apply activator to my nail, and I want to wait for it to start to dry down. So I don't want my nail to be completely wet, but I don't want it to be fully dry yet either. So I'm going to wait just a few seconds until it starts looking a little duller. And then I'm going to take that baggie, and then as it's starting to dry, I'm going to press down. So pressing down on the glitters on the shards as they're drying with the activator, they'll hold their shape. So they're going to lay flatter. And this is such a game changer when you're working with pieces that tend to stick up a little bit more. It makes such a huge difference. And then after I do that, I always like to apply a little more activator. I may do that once or twice, but usually I find that once is enough. It just depends on what I'm using. And as you can see, the activator does make my nails cold. So you can see at the free edge of my thumb, it is that gray color now because it is a bit colder. So I'm going to do this for all my nails except my middle finger, because my middle finger is just like a fine glitter. It's not really like anything chunky, but for the rest of the fingers, they are chunkier pieces that tend to stick up. So I'm going to do this. The key is that you can't do it while your nails are too wet with the activator, because then the baggie will just stick to your nail, and then you could end up pulling up some of those glitters, pulling up your dip. So it has to be when it's starting to get a little bit matte but not fully dry, so that you can still kind of shape those glitters. So there are things you can do along the way. So as you saw when I was dipping, before my dip base was fully dry, I was pressing down to make sure things were flat. And then when I capped in clear, which I did off camera, but when I cap in clear, I do the same thing. I dip my nail in the clear, and then I start pressing down again just to make sure everything's laying flat. And this is the last thing I do, just to make sure that things are flat, because sometimes just pressing down when my dip base is wet isn't enough. And for those pieces, this is what really helps. So it's not just this that I do at the end, it's all three things that really help for a flatter dip, especially because for glitters, you don't want to file through them if they're sticking up, because you could file off the color, because most colored glitters are silver in the middle. So it becomes obvious when you file through it. So all of these things will help if you're struggling with getting your glitters or shards or whatever it may be to lay flat. I know some people like to do the activator baggie method before they cap and clear, but I prefer to do it after I cap and clear. And the reason is, if you do the activator baggie method before that, you do get your glitters to lay flatter, but then once you go to cap and clear, you have activator on your nail. So if you're not really careful, you could contaminate your dip base and harden your brush. So you have to be extra careful. So if I do my clear first and then do the activator baggie method, I don't have to really worry about it. So as you can see here, my nails are super flat after doing these tricks. So I went ahead and filed and buffed off camera. So here's how my mani's looking. And because I got those glitters to lay so flat, I didn't end up filing through anything. So everything is still intact. So now I'm going to get into my favorite part, which is dip top coat. So in order for your dip top coat to dry, it does need activator. So I'm going to apply one final layer of activator to all my nails. And then I'm going to wait a full 2 minutes for the activator to dry before I go in with my top coat. For my first layer of top coat, I'm applying it in 2 to 3 swipes on each nail. I want to be fairly quick about it because I don't want to linger and risk hardening my brush with that excess activator. In between each nail, I'm making sure to wipe my brush on something lint-free, so I do have that paper towel down just to wipe off any excess activator. And then once I'm done with my 5th nail, I'll be ready to go in with my 2nd layer of dip top coat, because you do need 2 layers of dip top coat to get that shine. So for my 2nd layer, I'm kind of taking my time. I'm making sure I've got my entire nail covered, and I also want to make sure that I'm capping my free edge. As always, I'm going to finish off my mani by rehydrating my cuticles with my Scales of Mermaid cuticle oil. This is in the scent No You Hang Up First. This is luckily a mainline scent. This was released sometime last year. I think it was around this time. But not only do I love the theme, I absolutely love this scent. So this scent is a little bit fruity. It's a little bit sultry. It's just a very luxurious type scent. And of course, it's super moisturizing. I love lathering myself up in these cuticle oils. So that pretty much wraps up today's video, and I am absolutely in love with this color story. So I hope this video was helpful. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, I'd appreciate if you gave this video a thumbs up. It lets me know to continue creating content like this, and it also helps YouTube recommend me to others, which helps grow my channel. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. I upload content every Monday and Thursday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. As always, I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.